I always knew, I'm gonna get rich. Like, I'm not rich yet, but like, I'm gonna get rich. Like, that's the way to live. Like, I grew up Section 8, and so I just knew it wasn't the wave, right? I was like, this is not the wave. Like, this is not the wave. Like spaghetti. Like, again, like, this is not the wave. But when I was at the Ritz, I'm checking in. I met every celebrity, NBA player, all of that. But you're also meeting a lot of like presidents, CEOs, just business people that can afford $500 a night rooms.
And they're just regular people, right?
Yeah, and then just regular people. Like Horatio Alger comes there. And like that organization, but then other people, like where the Ritz is situated in DC, it's on 22nd and M, and there's a gym that's in Equinox now, but it used to be it used to be called LA Sports Club or Sports Club LA, and so you're just meeting the people that just like live in the neighborhood, and you're just seeing like Bentleys and cars, jewelry, and people that have, and I realized I was like, oh, I'm just on the wrong side of this transaction, and I have a friend named Damon. He worked at the hotel. He has his own hotel group called Homage Hotels, Homage Hospitality, or Homage Hotels. His name's Damon Lawrence, and he was like, "Yo, I'm about to get into real estate." And I was like, "What was that all about?" And it inspired me to like do the research. And I saw how like the entry point wasn't that high. I was like, "Oh, I can do that." And I got in. It took me like 2 years to actually like do it, to like just take the leap. And I got in when I was 25, 26. And I built my career off, so that's how I got in. And then first time home buyers, and now I'm like heavy listing side.
Cool.
So yeah, I love it, man. I'm glad I found it. I knew I needed a job where I knew I wanted to do something where I could just like go, like where the sky wasn't the limit. Like I'm not a good employee, right? Like I was never gonna make the corporate climb, just I don't have the endurance for it. Mm-hmm. Like I don't, if I decided, hey, I want to go sell $3 million houses tomorrow, I would figure out how to do that, and then I would go, get $3 million listing appointments. And in the corporate world, you have to like do the job, which makes sense, honestly. You have to do the job before you get it, but then you're on limbo and you have to do all the right things.
Yeah.
And I remember I started to do the climb, and I remember my manager was like, what the problem is, Nick, is like when you're here, like engage, you crush it. But sometimes you just come like half-assed. And I remember being like, how excited do you think I am every day checking people in and telling them where the restaurant is? And like asking them, like, I already know how long the flight is from Japan, right? Like how excited am I gonna be having the same conversation every day? And so then I got into real estate. I actually did the 2.5 week, so I decided I'm gonna do it. And I just like, I had vacation days, and I just did like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2.5 weeks. And so I was like from class to like at KW, it was like 6 weeks. I was out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What you were doing.
I knew exactly where I wanted to be. So that's good. So, all right, James, I got James Buckley on the show. It's like a cool fit. You look like, this is great. I like the sunglasses on the polo.
Yeah.
So tell the people who you are. Who is James Buckley?
James Buckley, Realtor, father first. I've got 2 awesome kids, an amazing wife.
Great.
I grew up in a real estate family. Went to open houses with my dad and checked out properties with my dad, and really learned how to sell real estate from him. Just kind of second nature growing up. I didn't think I'd be a real estate agent. I left college wanting to do real estate development. Yeah. Did that for a little bit. But the world kind of pushed me to be a real estate agent, and I'm so glad it did.
Yeah.
I avoided being a real estate agent. I didn't think I'd be very good at selling. I didn't think I'd be good at finding clients. But I don't know, as time went on, I realized that I just have to help people the way I've always helped people, which is to listen to them and do the best job I could.
I was just telling Pedro on the last podcast when we just ended, it was, I said we're more in service and education than we are in sales, right?
For sure.
And obviously once you get a listing and you're in sales, and then we're in marketing then too, but a lot of it is just like what you said, like understanding what people need and want. And
you listen to Tim Harris's podcast?
Sometimes, yeah.
One of the things that I like the most about what he has said.
Closer to you.
How's that? Is that better?
A little closer. That should be good.
Cool. One of the things that I really liked about what Tim has said in the past is that everyone that is going to impact the world is in sales. And he talked about this heart doctor that he ran into years and years ago. And the heart doctor said, hey, Tim, you don't realize this, but you and I are in the same business. We're in sales. And my sales job is to convince my patients that they need this life-changing operation, because some of them choose not to.
Yeah.
And the best way to approach sales is going into it knowing that you're helping people, that you're serving them. And that is critically important.
There's a book called like To Sell Is Human, I think. I haven't read it, but I during this political season, that we just had, I remember, kind of telling my mother-in-law, like the Republicans are better at sales, and like this is sales, and the Dems are like failing in sales right now, and that's why they're getting washed, And she didn't like to think about it right like that. She's like, oh, I don't, like that content. I was like, this is sales, and like marketing, and they're just better at it, And so I agree that every that's interesting that everybody that's gonna impact the world is in sales, but also I think everything is sales, and once you understand that, you can win. So are you from this area? Did you grow up in the DMV?
So I was born in Spain.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, born in Spain in 86. We moved here in 89. My mom grew up here, so we came back here.
Okay.
My dad's British. My mom's American.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so I've been here ever since, except for 4 years in college.
Okay. And where'd you go to school?
Miami University in Ohio.
I saw that on your profile somewhere. How was that experience?
It was really different, man. It was different. You'd think it's just like Ohio, but no, it's different. DC is different from many, many parts of the U.S.
Yeah.
Not better or worse, but it's different.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I grew up. I went to the Washington International School.
Okay.
Right, where differences are celebrated, and that was really formative. And I don't know, going to Ohio, college in Ohio.
Oh, you went to Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you went to U. Okay.
No.
Oh, Miami of Ohio. Okay, so that's a hard school to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know,
okay.
I guess.
So yeah, tell me about that experience then. Now what I'm thinking about this.
Yeah. No beaches in Oxford, Ohio. No, culturally, it was just really different. People loved their like Ohio State football games. And people didn't celebrate different people.
Yeah.
People didn't, there wasn't like a curiosity about people.
Yeah.
Which was a shock for me.
No, I'm from Annandale, and I looked this up recently because I was having a conversation with someone. But when I was in high school, they did a study on like how international and diverse Annandale was, and it was like 89% like international, and then the rest was like black and white, just like regular American. And you don't realize in the moment like how impactful that is, or how impactful that will be in your life. But it's in the little things. Like when I hear someone like they can't pronounce a name that's like foreign, I'm just like, just sound it out like regular. Like it's not that intimidating,
And if you get it wrong, you'll get corrected.
Yeah.
And life moves on, right?
Yeah, and this area is so diverse, and it's a lot like how New York is diverse, but I would say we probably, I don't know if we have more cultures than New York, but everyone's like really close together here. And so I think that's like the best thing. And when I went to college, I went to Ferrum, which is like 45 minutes south of Roanoke. So I was in Southwest Virginia, and it was only black and white. And I was like, where is everyone else? Like I was culture shocked, and I was having that experience by myself too. So I can relate to that.
I studied abroad my junior year, and it was awesome. It was the best time of my life.
Yeah.
At least up until that point. And then I came back, and it was January in Ohio, and it was gray, and it was cold, and everyone was just watching like football on TV.
Yeah.
And that wasn't for me.
The Midwest life is different.
Yeah.
It's different. So when I reached out this morning to be like, or maybe last night, like, what do you want to talk about? I think you mentioned something that's super relevant. We just had the fires in California, so
for sure.
Shout out and prayers up to all the people that were affected by that. But you mentioned insurance and how that's changing, and what people don't realize is that's actually been happening for a few years, and now we've just seen the disaster happen is why insurance people pull back. But so what are your thoughts on that?
It's a rapid change when you look at the history of the homeowners insurance industry, but it's over the last like 3 years, 2-3 years, it's really changed like so much. And it's not just California that's affected. It's not just Florida or the Gulf states, but it's everywhere. And I can't remember the name of the insurance company, but they're not doing any new policies. So they're like out of the game, and not just in Florida, not just in California, everywhere. And so there are fewer options. And the insurance companies that are still in it, they're doing things that they didn't used to do. They're asking, how old is the roof? They're asking things like, what's going on in the basement that's going to protect from a flood. They're looking, they always looked at the claims, but they're being harder on people that are applying for insurance, and saying like, hey, even for like a buyer, buyer comes and tries to get insurance. If you're a seller, and here's my story. So I was selling a home, and the seller had been there for only like 2 years. The previous owner had several claims. And so when that new owner was going to sell that home, even though they didn't have any claims, all the insurance companies were looking back even before they were there and looking at the claims. And a lot of them were saying, no, we're not interested.
Oh, wow.
And so that affected the seller because buyers were having a hard time. And so what we started doing was we started working with an insurance agent to vet the buyer's ability to get insurance before we went under contract with them. And that's not just like a fluke. That's not a one-off. That's like all properties, they look back and see what's going on with the claims, and it could be a real problem.
It's crazy. I would never think that would happen until you hear a story like that, right? Yeah. And so you don't. It's kind of like you don't know until you know. But I think from like an insurance company standpoint, that kind of makes sense, right? Like, how do you feel about that? Because when the fires in California were happening, and it was the company, it was like, oh, they don't do claims anymore. I remember saying like it was the State Farm CEO, right? Like, who cares? It was the State Farm CEO. I think he made like $25 million, and people were like, well, this guy made $25 million and he's not insuring the people. And I was like, well, first of all, who cares that he's like wealthy? Like, who cares? Like, let's not be mad at the rich, right? And then I'm like, but from a business owner standpoint, why would I insure something that is almost guaranteed to like flood or catch on fire? Like, what do you think about that? Do you feel like they're like morally, like everyone should have insurance, or do you feel like?
Yeah, I think it's dangerous to think about the world in terms of morals. Everyone should have morals. Everyone should treat everyone with respect. But I don't know. The world is what you can do and how you can protect yourself from others. And businesses exist to make money. Yeah. And if people get mad enough because of morals, that'll affect the business. But I don't think insurance companies should do something because they should. I think they should because there's a need and there's people that are willing to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And CEO pay is like a whole different can of worms, right? But when it comes to whether they should or not, like an insurance company, just no one's going to do it. No one's going to be an insurance company if they're not making money. There's just no reason to work incredibly hard and take all that risk with your time and your money if you're an insurance company if you're not going to make money doing it.
I think when there's a tragedy, you always think like best case scenario for the people that are going through that.
Yeah.
But insurance is, it works the same way. If you are 350 pounds and you have to go get life insurance, you're going to pay a premium for that, right?
And here's the problem. If the insurance companies don't pull back and respond to market conditions, the environment, whatever, business conditions, then that's not giving the feedback to the people that are doing risky things, right? So like, living in Florida is risky, right? And people didn't used to live there, but they've been living there, and then more and more hurricanes are like washing out communities, and maybe people shouldn't have homes or expensive homes, or maybe they should have different types of homes that are more resilient. And so the insurance companies are responding, and they're putting it back on us, the homeowners, and we've got to change.
I would love nothing more if you're listening to this. If you live in San Diego and your insurance premium increase, move out, please, in Exodus, so the real estate prices can go down, and so I can buy a house there. I love San Diego. That's like, and
San Diego's beautiful.
It's not that it hasn't been that affected, and I'm like, I hope that that's like my wife and I's happy place, San Diego. That's interesting, man. I think that I don't mind the response from insurance companies in regards to this. I think it's tough for the home buyer because and the home seller in that regard, right? Because your seller was affected by what the buyers, couldn't do based on insurance. And I think it's tough for the home buyer because already homes are so, quote unquote affordable. Prices are going up. And so it pushes more people out of the market. But I think that insurance companies have to protect themselves as well. And I don't know if government regulation is necessary, but obviously like a premium, it's like, do those areas of the country just become for the wealthy who can afford to either pay that premium or put their home back together? Because I know there's that neighborhood in the community in California. I think it was Altoona or like that, where I guess it's a more lower income, but the Pacific Palisades and Malibu, like these people can rebuild,
Yeah.
So it's like, who's being affected,
For sure. And as a real estate agent, it makes it important not just to have a good lending partner, et cetera, but also to have a really good insurance person that will pick up the phone, that will do things like mine did, where they're like, you're connecting them with the buyers that you don't have a relationship with, and they're responding to text message intros with like 6 or 7 different buyers that are thinking about putting in an offer.
So from a real estate agent standpoint, like, what do you think is for your clients? Like, what's your team? Like, what do you consider your team? Is hey, I'm your realtor. You're gonna buy or sell a house with me. These are all of the resources that I need to have for you. What does that look like in your business?
Well, I mean, there's my teammates, so licensed realtors, right? And they can support in a lot of different ways. But outside of that, there's a lender. Obviously, for a long time has been critically important. My transaction coordinator, my insurance agent, and title. And then, in addition to that, home improvement contractors. A buyer wants to buy this, but it's not quite right for them. I need to show them, hey, you can change this. If the layout works for you and the location works for you, there are things we can change and it'll cost this much. And to have a contractor partner or a couple partners that are responsive, that's invaluable. And then probably even more so when you're working on the buyer side and there are, or on the seller side, when there are things that come up in the inspection, there's a lot of emotion for buyers. And it's easy for buyers to feel overwhelmed. But when you put it into dollars and cents and like action steps, it's not so scary. And, they might still say, I don't want to do this, but at least they have the information. And to have a contractor partner that's super responsive, that can go get eyes on it and say, this is what it'll cost to get over this issue. And, maybe the seller pays for it, maybe the buyer, maybe they split it. But just having that partner to bring that clarity. It's the same with the contractor, finance, insurance. Once buyers and sellers have that clarity, it's just logistics and it's just an equation.
I tell my buyers at the during the buyer consult, I say, hey, look, this is, we get to this step and then we do the home inspection. And I say, this is the natural pain point, right? We're going to go, I call it product knowledge day. We're going to go, we're going to discover everything that's wrong with your house, right? The house that you're buying. And the purpose
And there's always something wrong.
And there's always going to be something, right? And unlike renting, where you move in, they give you the paper and they're just like, go inspect your house and tell us what's wrong. We'll come back and fix. I'm like, more than likely, there are going to be some things left over that you have to do, right? Like, you're not buying a new construction, new build. I'm like, but unless there's, foundation issues or, something major, right, that you feel like is a little bit out of budget, everything is doable. And then, of course, we get to negotiate for those things to get fixed. So you do have to prep those people, and having that and I've never actually thought about it in my business, even though I have those contractors. And maybe I didn't need to, which is why is being like, hey, this is the cost. This is the real cost of this, because you have, roof, HVAC, water heater, which everyone knows is expensive, but then you just have the checklist that you have to hit over time, and those are we call them paycheck projects, right? Like, you can hit those, one by one over time. And some things you don't even need to hit. The home inspector's just pointing them out. And I'm like, hey, look, my home inspector's going to tell you he feels like the doorknob is loose. But that's not something you really need to do unless it becomes a major inconvenience.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, that's important. Do you have a niche in the business? Like, do you have a certain niche that you're attacking and servicing?
No. I know, the whole world is moving more and more specialized, but I'm not a big believer in specialization. I know it has worked incredibly well for a lot of people. A lot of people have made a lot of money. But, people say part of the reason the dinosaurs went extinct is because each of them were so specialized for their niche. And then when the environment changed, they were so specialized they couldn't adapt. And so,
Is this what they say about dinosaurs?
this is what someone said, and it stuck in my mind.
That's great.
Yeah. And like one of the reasons Homo sapiens have flourished across the globe, right, is we're adaptable.
Yeah.
And so I like to be knowledgeable about a lot of different things, condos, single family detached, Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland, all of it.
Yeah.
New construction, but also resales. Because, I'm going to find people and I'm going to talk to people that need help. And I don't know what they're going to need help with, but I can help them with anything that they need that's real estate related. And, just from like a business sustainability standpoint, the market is going to change. The real estate industry is going to change. And, I'm pretty knowledgeable about a lot of different stuff, but I don't want to shut off what I'm learning about like all the different things, because I want to be able to help people when I'm connected with them.
You need to be well versed in every aspect. Yeah, I have an agent friend who's learning commercial real estate right now, and I'm like, "What do you?" I was like, "You want to go commercial?" He's like, "No, I'm not going to do any." He's like, "I don't plan on doing commercial." He's like, "But I sell real estate, so I need to know about this part too." And I think that anytime we can offer, like our job is to almost be there to, offer information and help somebody understand, the process of whatever they're trying to, buy, sell, invest in.
Because let's say an expert is like 99% knowledgeable about their field, right? And if you have a broad knowledge base, but you're not an expert, you're still at 50%.
Yeah.
Because you're in real estate and you you at least see it from a somewhat close distance. But then you talk to people and they have like a 10% knowledge on that. And so when you're at 50% and they're at 10%, you can at least say, don't do that. That's going to get you into trouble.
Yeah.
Let me connect you with my contact, my friend, et cetera, to help you.
It's almost how I feel that every agent is about, or every agent should be about lending, right?
For sure.
I'm like, I know all the programs. I understand what your debt to income ratio should be, what your credit score should be. This is FHA, this is conventional, right? But like, you should actually have a lender look at your finances, right? But I can have that conversation. I always say, no one's ever walked up to me and said, hey, tell me more about the home inspection contingency, or tell me more about the appraisal contingency. It's all about loans.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know loans, I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't have that many buyers, at least the way my business was set up. Because when I came into the business, I was 25. So it was all, well, I was 26. It was all, hey, I don't think I can buy because I don't have an 800 credit score. Don't have to put 20% down. I have student loans.
There's so many options now.
Yeah. And it's like, no, you can do this, I don't think that, so how do you think growing up in a real estate family has like been a benefit for your business? Like, do you just have things just like nuanced things that that the regular agent doesn't have? Like, do you have just like a deeper understanding? And was your dad a real estate agent?
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad's awesome. He's still a real estate agent.
Yeah.
But just like growing up with terms like ratification, like no other like 13-year-old knows what ratification is, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I was never scared about the logistics of real estate. I always knew like I got that. What I had to feel comfortable with becoming a real estate agent was the sales. And I saw my dad do that too. And I saw, the things that every real estate agent should do. But that's a lot of mindset and not logistics.
Yeah.
And I feel like mindset is one of those things that you can you can know it, but not really fully know it and understand it until you do it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like logistics and how to sell a home, no problem. I had it down. Got my real estate license when I was, like 20.
Did you get it just like, I should just have this? Was it kind of like one of those, or did you have intention at that time?
I knew that having a real estate license, I could do things like earn referral fees, right? And I could refer people to my dad, help him, help myself. And so that was part of it. I knew I wanted to work in real estate. and I knew that it would allow me to do more and to be more valuable to whoever I was working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And where'd you start in real estate? Where was your first company? Who were you with? In 2020 when you got back into the business?
Keller Williams.
KW.
Yeah.
I always say KW is the best new agent brokerage on I feel like everyone is actually running the KW model and just they tweak it a little bit, but I feel like Gary Keller kind of created the model. That's just like my opinion though. I also started at KW, so maybe that's why I feel like that. And the MRA book is gold, right? And now we're both at EXP.
Yeah.
Right? When did you get to EXP?
So we talked about, the real estate development stuff I was doing and how that shifted me into residential real estate. And so in 2020, I was with KW. I was with a team, and the team was great, but I just felt like what I was giving them and what they were giving me, it wasn't working for me. And I knew that, I could go out and find clients.
Yeah.
I didn't need them. Redfin, the agents get their leads from Redfin, not all of them, but they rely on Redfin. And I just knew that wasn't me. Like, I'm not going to rely on someone. I'm James Buckley, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to build my business, and I'm not going to rely on a gatekeeper, and a gatekeeper's not going to hold me back.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about that team after I had been there for 8 months. And so, I thought, okay, I can go join another brokerage. I can join my dad.
Yeah.
Or I can start a real estate brokerage. And so I left and started a real estate brokerage.
Oh, okay.
It was exciting. Canopy Real Estate.
Yeah.
Did that for 3 years. And then Dan Lesniak reached out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't recognize his name. I knew the Kerry Shull name, but didn't know Dan Lesniak.
Shout out to Dan, yeah. Did he give you the, like, hey, would you be down for like a 30-minute call or something like that?
It's actually someone that called for him. I tell people that he called, but really it was someone that called for him. And I didn't recognize his name when that person called me. And so I was like, no, it's all right. Not interested. And to this caller's credit, he said, you sure? It's just like 5 minutes. And I was like, all right, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
But so what I thought was just like going to be like a couple minute call ended up being like an hour and 15-minute call.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dan showed me that eXp Realty is awesome.
Yeah.
And I went from broker owner, not paying a split to anyone, in control of my life, right? Mm-hmm. And all that stuff, to realizing, oh, wow, like, I have success here, but I can have even more success. I can still have like brand autonomy, and also have like all the collaboration. We wouldn't have met if it weren't for eXp Realty.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of that. So I love it.
So what do you think that, say, I know I was like, client folk will say whatever you want, right? Whatever makes sense. What do you think is the benefit of being at eXp Realty from like an agent perspective, right? And from like a client perspective?
I mean, agent perspective, I could go on for hours. But basically, for what you're paying, you get the most. Collaboration, tools, opportunities to expand without all the red tape and like the turf wars and all that nonsense. So that's where I'll stop for the agent, because if I don't stop now, I'll just go on forever. For the client, the brokerage really matters, and I don't mean that like how cool is their branding. I mean if you're working with an agent and they have an inefficient brokerage model, that means that agent is paying too much to their brokerage and not getting enough in return. So that agent has to sell more homes to make the same amount of money, and that means that agent can spend or has to spend less time per client to make the money that they need to make ends meet or hit financial goals. And that sucks for the client. That's not fair to the client.
Yeah.
Cutting off like 25% of the extra care you can give to a client just because your brokerage is stuck like 30 years ago in their brokerage model.
So almost we feel that the agent has to do more business to kind of eat.
For
right?
sure.
And that can just lead to less like care and service and
Yeah.
effectiveness in your real estate deal as you're working with them.
Absolutely. And, a lot of agents don't realize it because, they're stuck in this idea that what I'm doing is working, but they don't realize it could be better. And they don't realize that they could actually be serving their clients better.
You know what's interesting about you saying that is that when I got here, I was chatting with Bronson, and I said the times in my business where I feel I'm the most effective to my clients is when I feel like my business bank account is just like full and like I don't need this transaction to close. Obviously, we need all the money we make and we want it, but where I'm just like, oh, my business bank account is cool. Like, if this deal voids, like, it's okay. I'm the most effective in that space, which is what you're talking about right now. And then I'm also the most effective when I have no business, which doesn't happen often that much. But when I have sometimes you have that last deal that ratified and the next client is that closed and the next client isn't ratified yet. And I'm like, oh, I need to eat, right? And then like the hustle just comes like full body.
Yeah.
And I crush it in that space too. I'm gonna get you out of here on this question. So what advice do you have for buyers, sellers, or investors, or just like the people you're working with in real estate? Let me ask that question better. What advice do you have for buyers and sellers in the real estate market today?
I mean, everything seems scary when you're doing it at first. Interest rates are high, prices are high, but when you look back on it, you're going to laugh at it. You're just going to laugh at it. And like, it's hard now, it's scary now, but everyone's income grows over their life. Everyone's property value increases, not always in a straight line, right? But it's going to increase. And like, my buddy's parents bought their home in McLean for $70,000 decades ago, right?
Do they still have it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they sold it, I don't know, like 10 years ago.
Okay, so they still made $1 million.
Probably multiples,
Multiple, yeah.
And for them, that was a lot of money. And they stretched to get that mortgage. And like, you got to do I don't want anyone to overextend themselves and be in a bind. But in the context of history, when we look back in a decade or two or three, this is going to be small potatoes.
Yeah.
And so work with a good agent that's going to help you stay focused on that and get a place that's right for you and your family, and do the things in the contract to protect you while still making you competitive. But yeah, like, I don't know, who cares about the interest rates? It's only 6%, 7%. It used to be 13, 18%.
Yeah.
Just make it happen. Make it happen for you and your family.
Love it. That's great advice. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Hopefully everywhere. I try to be everywhere. But Instagram at James Buckley Official. You can hit me up at 202-410-0672. And canopy-re.com is my website.
And James is doing reels. He's doing reels all the time. He's sending me reels all the time. I'm looking at them.
Whether you like it or not, I'm sending them to you.
He's pushing them out, so you're going to get them. Real quick before I let you go, what is this Canopy thing all about?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the name of the brokerage. I had to come up with a name. And the idea was, the world is a jungle. The real estate market is a jungle, right? And that the canopy, you're at the top, right? And you can see for miles. And so Canopy Real Estate, Canopy Property Group, see clearly from the top.
See it clearly with James Buckley.
That's right.
Thanks for joining me, man. This was great.
Thanks for having me.